Welcome to the Double D Experience. I'm going to precurse this by saying that if we're not a news and politics podcast,
First and foremost,
we're a variety podcast, just two best friends shooting the shit with each other every single week. New episodes every weekend. But I want to precurse this by saying if we talked about, whatever headlines about Donnie T are going to be around for the next 4 years, we would, in fact, become a news and politics podcast. So I know he got inaugurated this week. I just want to say I'm not going to ruin your mental health or increase your mental health, depending on if you're one of his cock riders, by, talking about him every week. That being said, the topic for this week is something I cannot ignore. It's something we even mentioned before. We've talked about previously on the podcast when this came up about a year or two ago, or actually longer ago when I think it was first brought up. By Donnie T, fun fact, which really brings the whole thing full circle and brings the sense of irony into it. We are talking about the TikTok ban. I have not been able to get this shit off my mind. It's been really racking. It's all me and my girlfriend have been talking about, besides, other things, but me and my girl have been talking about it a lot because she loves TikTok, as many a woman do among just people in general and people her age and just people all over the spectrum. So we're going to give a quick eulogy to TikTok, and I'm going to put it on screen right now. It's the center image on your Discord, Dennis. Rest in peace, TikTok. Died January 19th. Born January 19th. This shit went back quicker than the Twitch, you remember when Twitch did that thing where they allowed the body art thing, and they were basically letting porn on the platform for 24 hours, and then they went back on that shit immediately? You remember when we talked about that last year? We talked about that last year.
Can you jog my memory there? Sorry.
They just did a body art thing where just tasteful nudity or artistic nudity. They called it artistic nudity just to give e-girls an excuse to be actually naked. And then they went back on it in 24 hours.
Simps. Right.
This shit lasted even less long than that. And we know why. Please. What's up, Dennis?
I just want to ask, you think, is the government simping for TikTok?
Yeah. That's essentially the reason why this went down the way it did, because we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of this. If you've been living under a rock, even people who I don't use TikTok. Dennis doesn't use TikTok. Neither of us have ever liked TikTok. We actually, at one point or another, were for the TikTok ban. I can safely say that I'm not now with what's gone down with it. I will get to that in a minute, but yeah, if you've been living under a rock, or a TikTok, or a Tick Rock, I guess, we should probably get that checked out if you went on a camping trip. If you got Tick Rocks, you definitely want to get that shit removed, get a shot or something. TikTok has been went down last Saturday. We were playing Marvel Rivals at the time, Dennis, and it went down live while that shit was happening, and I gave a quick eulogy to Jonah because I know he loves TikTok. It actually went down a full day before it was supposed to. The next day, Sunday, January 19th, was supposed to be the day it went down, but then it went dark a little early. No one seemed to question that too much. Until now, really. So, TikTok got banned, and the reason, or the quote-unquote reason it got banned, is because the government said it was a foreign threat. They basically said it is a Chinese propaganda app. It is basically a psyop to make American citizens dumber. Which, was true to an extent. That's why me and Dennis hated TikTok. It made stupid people famous, and it really just, I hate what it's done to content and short form content. It's really emboldened a lot of stupid people, but it's also helped out a lot of small businesses and done a bunch of other good as well. But now TikTok actually is the cesspool that me and Dennis have been saying it was for a while, because ever since it got banned and then instantly came back, it has fundamentally changed. And if you're wondering why it suddenly came back, I'll throw this image on screen for you right now. When TikTok got banned, this message is what came up on your screens. It said, "Sorry, TikTok is not available right now. A law banning TikTok has been enacted in the United States. Unfortunately, that means you can't use TikTok for now. We are fortunate that President Trump has indicated that he will work with us on a solution to reinstate TikTok once he takes office. Please stay tuned." That's what showed up. They actually did it. App was gone. A lot of people didn't believe it. Some people did. Just like Vine, rest in peace. All the short form content gotta go off the internet. And as much as I hate it, I'm not really for that kind of censorship. So I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. Didn't bother me one way or another. I was more upset for my girl and for people who actually ethically use TikTok, if that's a thing. Less than 14 hours later, app's back. It went back online out of nowhere. People just noticed the app came back, and then what happened is they were greeted suddenly with this message. Now it said, "Welcome back. Thanks for your patience and support. As a result of President Trump's efforts, TikTok is back in the United States. You can continue to create, share, and discover all the things you love on TikTok." I'm gonna enact something that the tweeter above said right here. The app died and went back on January 19th. Actually, it went down on January 18th, the night before. On January 19th, Donald Trump was still not the president yet. Which red flag number one.
Mm-hmm.
Literally was not sitting back in the fucking Oval Office yet. But TikTok, in both their Sayonara Shadow the Hedgehog message, as well as their Welcome back, Shadow message, they're just sucking off Trump.
What?
Even though... What, Shadow the Hedgehog, meeting?
No, Shadow with Donald Trump's hair.
Ooh. I don't even want to think.
So cursed.
I'm not sure if I want to think about that. I mean, it would definitely look better than his current do.
No. You cannot do that, Maria.
The gun soldiers they were the best at killing Maria.
the gun agents, the best in the business.
The best gun agents. They were trained under
the best shooters of little girls ever.
They were trained under my administration to shoot and kill little girls. We had to kill a lot of little girls once they found their escape from Epstein's Island. So we had to train the gun soldiers.
They are the greatest beginnings of a villain arc I've ever made. They are the best. You'll never find anything better.
You know, Maria. Ivo. Anyway. So why am I talking about this? Well, it's just kind of fucky. Because
fucky wucky.
That both the outro and the starter, the goodbye TikTok and the welcome back TikTok messaging drops Trump by name, which is a little weird for an official message on something of this caliber. He also was not in the fucking Oval Office yet. He was not president. He didn't enact the 90-day extension that he said he was going to do yet because the transition of power had not happened yet. So that was already fucking weird. So, quite frankly, it just felt off. And, what a lot of people were theorizing is that this was just a fucking ploy to make Trump look good to young people because they are his most the most anti-Trump demographic that exists would be
is
the
like
Zoomers.
20 to 30 year olds.
Yeah, millennials, Zoomers, some Gen X's. And then there's Trump supporters in all three of those factions, but none on the scale of the fucking boomers. That generation, they're the ones that's the most infected by his rhetoric. So,
Got it.
where are all the young people at? TikTok. So, people thought he, was just trying to make himself look good to the young people by essentially taking all of the credit for this by extending it. It's classic. I don't know what the name of it is, forgive me, even though I was a communications major, I don't remember the exact terminology where you essentially create a problem, pretend to solve that problem that never existed in the first place, reap all the benefits and reward for it. You know that picture of Obama giving himself the medal?
Yeah.
That meme?
I'm trying to think of the name too. I can't think of it.
I don't know what it is either. I mean, I could Google it in the meantime. We'll try to drop that on you. But it seems with how short the TikTok ban was and how it went down the way it did, it seemed kind of obvious. And no one, unless you have a brain that is the size of a fucking squirrel testicle, you no one fell for this. Even on TikTok, no one fell for this. Like, the overwhelming majority of new TikToks when the app reopened were, this was bullshit, this was clear propaganda, this was clearly
an
a ploy.
attempt at propaganda.
An attempt at propaganda, yes, to get people to like him. Because I'm going to shoot a little reminder for you all right here. Donald Trump was the one who fucking first floated the idea of banning the app during the first year, or the last year of his first term. In 2020, the US government announced it was considering banning the Chinese social media platform TikTok upon a request from then President Donald Trump, who viewed the app as a national security threat. The result was that TikTok owner ByteDance, which initially planned on selling a small portion of TikTok to an American company, agreed to divest TikTok to prevent a ban in the United States and other countries, where restrictions are also being considered due to privacy concerns, which themselves are mostly related to its ownership by a firm based in China. Basically, the US put a sanction on TikTok saying, if you don't sell this to an American company, we're going to ban the app here because we don't want your propaganda infecting our phones, or the phones of the American people. That was what the idea was. And people like me and Dennis initially, a year ago when we talked about this, or however long it was, initially we were like, we don't give a fuck if TikTok gets banned. It conflicts us because of censorship, but we also fucking hate TikTok because it made the pink sauce lady famous. So, we didn't know what to really say about it. After talking with my girlfriend, who loves TikTok, and, has a psych degree herself, she's quite smart in many ways. She actually, I pick my fingers sometimes, because out of a nervous habit, whenever she sees it, she fucking slaps my hand, and it became like Pavlovian, and now I just think when she's gonna do it, I put my hands down, as to not cut myself out of nervous habit anymore. Even when I don't think she sees it, she's got like a third eye in the back of her head, and all of a sudden just, ow, fuck!
Some Hispanic in her.
Yeah, I'm like, thanks,
if
man.
If she had a chancla, she probably would have thrown it at you.
Thank God she's not a Latina, because if she did, she would use the fucking chocolate to do it instead. She'd like whip the shit up instantly too. She'd like kick it off her feet, just catch it like a fucking like anime character, and then just anyway,
start counter swinging and just like go. Psh. She parries it and just like smacks you across.
Parries it. like a real fucking gamer.
Yeah, exactly.
I love you, baby.
Guard counters.
Guard counters. Puts that shit sideways. Put it in defense mode. Anyway.
Wave dashes. With the chancla in hand.
Weave. Anyway. So, that was what the idea was about. It's old news at this point. They said, "This is if you don't sell it to an American company because we don't want your propaganda here, boom, you're done." You should have seen those hearings with the TikTok CEO. All those geriatric dumb bucks not knowing what the fuck they're talking about in those chairs. Yes.
Can I also just add one thing?
What's up?
All of this. Because again, I add that me and David are not users of TikTok. I don't have anything to say towards the people who use the app. But I know for a fact that when TikTok realized what they were and what they had on their hands and the fucking literal data farm that app is, that information and that data that they have is about worth as much to them in the weight of gold, if that makes sense.
Yes.
And that in and of itself to me, and this is me saying it strictly as like, I guess as a lack of a better word, I guess, like as an American, it doesn't sit right with me at all knowing that a literal foreign company has that much power in their hands. And like, I mean, and of course, like we always say like our criticisms towards like, of course, like corporations in America, like all the time. And like, of course, they're always valid because of the fact that like just kind of, especially I guess after the healthcare CEO got assassinated, like, we all have like our own like opinions towards like corporations in this country. But it's like almost ironically patriotic that it's like, Oh yeah, that's an American company, right? But the moment I hear that a non-American company has that much data and even information toward like about like, let's say, the American public, American zeitgeist, whatever you want to call it, does scare me. It really does. Like, that is over.
American companies sell like our data to the fucking Chinese all the time.
No, but it's so weird because, like, yes, I know that, but just knowing that this is an entirely separate entity who has that information and like has been farming it, and at the same time now, like, going back to our wonderful politicians who I know that they all like probably were hand rubbing them, like, just going like this and like thinking like, oh, like this is a genius idea. And yeah, as David said, anyone with even half a brain knew that nobody fell for this. Nobody like fell for that like clear attempt at propaganda to like kind of paint, Donald as like, oh, like he's TikTok savior, like thing, he literally saved the platform from being banned and blah blah. Like, it's personally for me like there is so much circus acting from this government, and it hasn't even been day one yet. They're already spinning the plates so much just to get like, I don't even, but it's so funny. Why do they even care about the young people, like, and getting them on their side? The elections, like, thing, they won that with, like, he won that without the young people vote anyways. So now I'm like wondering, why are they trying so hard? If this is their ploy, why are they trying so hard to like go and appeal to the young people, or at least the millennials or whoever the fuck? Like, I don't know. It's just lost on me.
May I provide an answer to that question for you? All right. Because I know you meant that sort of like a fucking rhetorical question. It's not rhetorical to me, because I'll tell you why. It's because America never cared about TikTok being a foreign propaganda tool. They just wanted it to be their propaganda tool.
Who are we talking about? Like the public?
Yeah, the U.S. government.
Because, okay, this isn't like our type of propaganda.
Yeah.
And that's why like we want it so that we can have it spewing out.
Yeah, no, they're not against propaganda. They just wanted it to be their fucking propaganda tool. And that is because on several reports from the millions of users who are on TikTok, including my girlfriend who reported this one to me directly, it's empty now. The app is not the same shit that it was when you went back into it.
Can you explain that?
All right. The search algorithms are completely different.
How so?
Right-wing shit is on the front page now. When you go in. Positive things about Elon, about Donnie T and whatnot, the changes that he's going to make.
I have something to say about Elon later.
And searching as well is a completely different story. My girlfriend is a humongous Taylor Swift fan.
Mm-hmm.
The algorithm, even on her end, has been nerfed, and she can't search for the smallest man who ever lived. That's a Taylor Swift song. It's called The Smallest Man Who Ever Lived. You're going to laugh your ass off at this. Well, yeah, that's like all her music. Or like half her music, basically. It now comes up. You're going to laugh your ass off at this, Dennis. That search gets blocked. It now comes up as the smallest woman who has ever lived. And it's one of her most popular songs, and the fact that shit's just gone from the search is nuts. This is what I'm talking about. He censored the shit out of it. What I think they're looking for is a half government stake, and one of those billionaires that he had sitting up there with him, they're gearing up to buy it. Because they're among the only people who can afford it, by the way, in the entire world. TikTok's net worth is between 40 billion and 200 billion. This app that's been around for 6 years already garnered that much. There's very few people in the world who have that amount of money, considering how bad the wealth divide is now and how bad wealth inequality is, and just how they pretty much control more than half the wealth at this point. A couple of those people, Elon, Zuck, Bezos, Cook, the Google guy, Who knows which one it's going to be?
The Google guy. Nobody knows it.
Forgot his name. Yeah, I'm sorry.
The Google guy.
Maybe it'll be Google's attempt at getting back into social
you
media
just hurt
after
this
Google
dude's
Plus
feelings.
failed.
It's like
I don't give a fuck. I don't give a single flying fuck about his fucking feelings. He can take a fucking hundo out of his like back pocket and wipe his eyes with it. All right.
But imagine though, everyone knows who obviously Musk is, who Bezos is. Google is like arguably one of the biggest like big tech companies in the world, and just nobody knows who the fuck the CEO's
my fucking
name
god.
is.
All right, Sundar Pichai. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Anyway,
I'm not gonna remember that.
Well, there you go. Now you know why no one remembers his name. Maybe it's internalized racism. Anyway, the point is, they're gearing up somebody there to buy it. Because America is now officially an oligarchy, and we know this. It's been one on its way to be one ever since Citizens United came into the picture, and the Supreme Court decided that corporations are people too for some reason, and you can dump as much money into politicians as you want. So what's clearly happening is, unfortunately, despite all the hot water he's been in recently, Mr. Beast is not going to buy TikTok, even though he's trying to do it and talking with other billionaires to do it right now, because he's only worth $1 billion. He would have to be like paying like rent payments on that shit like every year for the rest of his life if he wanted to get like full ownership of TikTok, even though ironically enough, he's like the least problematic person who could possibly own it, considering that on TikTok now, ever since Donald Trump saved it in that beautiful propaganda message that happened when you open the app, and all of a sudden he's the only thing you're seeing on it. And it's about all the good he's going to do. And it's about how right-wing shit is good and all this stuff. You see what I'm getting at here, Dennis? It's never for a fucking second was about Americans being infected with propaganda. They want us to be infected with their propaganda. They just want it to be theirs.
Yeah.
Yes, they just want it to be theirs. And as we all know, all the other social platforms are going the same way. Zuck just bent the knee and just started gargling Trump's like microscopic dick and balls. Elon already turned X into an alt-right shithole where, like, the people who buy the accounts, all the alt-right people, are the comments that are put on the top, undermining the actual majority of people who are liking the tweets on the bottom of it. So now Facebook's compromised, Instagram's compromised. You search Democrat or hashtag Democrat on Instagram, and it becomes a lot of anti-Democrat propaganda now. They control all the fucking social media now, or almost all of it. You see what I'm getting at? That's what it's about.
Yeah, they're definitely, they control the narrative now, more so than they ever have, really.
Yeah, and if you go to TikTok about this just to try to confirm if this is true, they double down. TikTok's official statement about this was, in agreement with our service providers, TikTok is in the process of restoring service. We thank President Trump for providing the necessary clarity and assurance to our service providers that they will face no penalties providing TikTok to over 170 million Americans and allowing over 7 million small businesses to thrive. It's a strong stand for this is where it's like they clearly fucking paid them off. It's a strong stand for the First Amendment and against arbitrary censorship. We will work with President Trump on a long-term solution that keeps TikTok in the United States, even though he is the motherfucker that first brought it up, that first enacted banning TikTok in the fucking first place during the pandemic. We were all distracted by the death count and making sure we didn't contract this deadly virus at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So, you see what this is about, really.
Yeah.
It's about just... You're wondering why do they care about getting the young people when you say they don't need them? It's to like just propaganda their minds for the future, Dennis, for the future elections, to get even more of them in office, because now, their politicians are going to be the ones who are getting plastered on all these platforms. They're, like a lot of the other side's opposition, like, you're not going to be able to search it up, and that shit's not going to show up in your algorithm. John Mayer said it best many years ago before social media even existed. When they own the information, they can bend it all they want. That's what it's actually about here. It's never been about TikTok is bad for our brains. It's never been about, Chinese influence or whatever or some shit like that. It's just about turning it into their fucking tool, which they did.
Mm-hmm.
Look at Zuckerberg. When he started losing all the young people to Instagram and Facebook became an ad platform for boomers, that's a direct quote for him, by the way. He called it an advertisement platform for boomers because he knows, even he knows that's what it is now. He bought Instagram. He saw young people were going to Snapchat. He tried to buy Snapchat. Didn't work out for him. All this shit. You see, it's... I had another thought in my head. Unfortunately, I lost my train of thought in the sauce. But you get the general idea that I'm getting at right here. It's about, you know, like just like setting up the Hitler Youth.
That's what it's Hitler Youth 2.0, really.
Yeah.
I mean, for one, I'm like trying to think parallels from like way back when. And, you know, obviously we had a little thing back then called yellow journalism. And for anyone who hasn't watched Citizen Kane, yellow journalism is David, how would you define it in your own words? Yellow journalism.
I was going to ask you as a historian, like, how does it feel to have like what is clearly the most blatant oligarchy we have had since the Gilded Age? I was going to ask you about that. But
it's really kind of a new, again, I guess, looking at it objectively.
Trump sort of hinted to it himself in his speech. He said America has now entered the golden age. And I think that was supposed to be like a little bit of a coded message, not to dig too much into it. He might have just said that to be like, hey, America's going to be great again, because that's my thing. Make America great again, blah, blah, blah. Who knows? But in all seriousness, we have not had a more blatant oligarchy where all these rich people, like the billionaires, are the ones who own this. And they've owned it for years at this point, but now it's worse than it's ever been because they got their guy in here.
Yep.
Ever before. And now they can do all the yellow journalism, which to define it for you is just, you know, mudslinging. It's just like when you report false shit or talk shit about people or like just, you know, post propaganda to get people to believe what you want. They can do that as much as they want. So that's what I have to say about that.
I even think to a certain extent, like I'm thinking back to post 9/11 United States, and we had declared war on Al-Qaeda plus Iraq, and you know, like we even had movies that came out later on, like Team America, which I mean, we all thought like was a straight parody to, you know, like we all knew, but to a certain extent, I almost like to think that, like, oh, sorry guys, if I hit the mic by accident. Sorry if you heard that, but the what do you call it? The the movie was parody, and like we all laughed at it. We all like, you know, like just know the American, like, you know, stereotype and jokes and stuff. But now I'm looking back at those movies and looking back at that era, and I'm just kind of like, damn, I kind of miss like whole 2000s America, and like even just the kind of narrative that we had for ourselves back then. And you know, the United States, like, you know, even now, like I'm really, the main thing I'm kind of worried about is also just foreign policy, on top of everything else, obviously, because like, you know, Mr. Orange over there, like literally what do you call it, you know, signed like 1 billion executive orders like as soon as like they
always do that.
Yeah, they always do that. But like, you know, just all of the shit that he was like saying that it's gonna happen day one, and like, you know, we've had the same kind of, you know, I guess announcements, or like it's like it's kind of almost like kind of a tradition for new presidents. It's like, you know, just a bunch of stuff that they're gonna get signed to, you know, like a bunch of executive orders to get done. And I know it sounds like I'm rambling here, but like, you know, it's going back like to TikTok now, because like, you know, yeah, like we've had presidents, or at the same time, I think even leaders in the past, where they used the media of their time to their advantage. And I think, you know, for any president, let's say, who is, you know, good or evil, I don't want to say evil, but it's just kind of like, you know, we've had them use the media to their advantage like all the time. Like, you're kind of stupid not to, that's for sure. And that even goes for people like Obama, who, like, you know, at the very least, like from the beginning of his presidency, everybody liked. And one can even argue, like, yeah, he even used the media to his advantage. Of course he did. And I guess now what I'm getting at is that, like, but it was always so subtle compared to how it is now, if that makes sense. Like, this was the most overt way I've seen that a president has tried to manipulate a section of the public to be on his side. And I think on paper it wasn't even a bad idea, but I think at the same time, like, maybe he also underestimated how much, like, people our age, like, kind of don't like him, or at the very least, like, even to a certain extent, maybe even detest him. Like, what do you call it? I guess where I'm getting at too is that it's because I'm thinking back what you said, like, we're in the age of an oligarchy. Like, it's kind of reflective of how it was back in the day, like, let's say towards the Gilded Age, and people called it that, at least at first affectionately, until obviously the Great Depression hit, about like 8 years or so afterwards. And it's so odd because, at least back then, and I'm thinking back in media, like, we've seen plenty of depictions of that age. Things look like, yeah, it was like, and even popularly speaking, like, everyone always talks about the Gilded Age as if it was like, yeah, like, one of the greatest times to be alive, and like, things were so great, America was doing great, economy was booming, like, things looked like it was going on the up and up. But one could argue, like, that at the very least, and I think, this was probably true. I don't know too much about the Gilded Age, and I don't really know what the distribution of wealth was like back in those times, but
it's pretty much just three people. It was just Rockefeller and, like,
yeah, exactly. Two
others that essentially owned the country, and
that's
we're pretty much there again with fucking Musk, Zuck, and Bezos.
Yeah, so, and, like, they are, like, I guess the new what you call them, muckrakers?
All front, yeah, pretty much all front row seats at the inauguration. By the way, pretty much all three of them.
yeah.
Like,
I
Bezos
saw all
with his
them
plastic
photos.
ass wife there too. It's worth noting the TikTok CEO, who was also at the inauguration, by the way, his profile does not say TikTok CEO anymore, which means it just doesn't say that anymore. Which means he probably definitely sold it, if we're being honest. And let's just keep it a buck. He sold it to one of those three. And Zuck, with his track record, I'm calling it right now, I think it's Zuck. With his track record of just trying to buy the media platforms that actually have the Zoomers on it, because he recognizes that Zoomers just don't give a fuck about Facebook. We all just still have one because, like, it's how we use Messenger and shit. That's pretty much it. I'm willing to guess it was him. Because Musk doesn't need to buy it. He has Twitter. Yeah, and Bezos, sure. I don't know if he'll just have that under his repertoire. But, the point is that...
I could see them even sharing it, like having divided stakes between the three of them.
We'll see how that goes behind the scenes with the three of them, how sick that infighting will be. But you see what I'm talking about. It's just about media control. And in my humble opinion, I think one of the only ways to win at this game is to not play it. I think now is a more important time to touch grass than ever before. Not only because in the grand scheme of these things, you're powerless to change so many of these things, at least not without, like, massive organization and whatnot, but the best way you could just make peace with yourself instead of just doom scrolling about all this horrible shit is to just be a beacon in your local community. Like, when, there's like a Christian prayer for it where you, like, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, and to change the things that I can, if you would, or say it goes somewhere along the lines of that. But it's just constant doomerism constantly. I mean, again, I go on Reddit a lot, titties, just like for that, and then even on
is that not also doom scrolling though? Just asking. Like, well, that,
yeah, that's what I was saying. That you see it in between.
Oh,
like, it's just
okay. I thought you were about to say, like,
Trump shit. Constant Trump shit, like 24/7. All the executive orders he's signing, blah blah blah. Musk doing a fucking actual Nazi salute twice.
Oh yeah,
on stage there. That shit was.
I was actually gonna mention.
Bro,
that.
this is gonna be a fucking long ass 4 years, dude. Assuming it even lasts that long.
my friend, we were all hanging out. We were out at believe it or not, Cookie Crush Cookie or Cookie Crush. I fucking forgot what the actual name is. It's a place in Inglewood. We went to a dessert place, and we were all just chilling. And he just slid me his phone, and it was just of Elon doing the literal fucking salute. And like, bro, that was the most like enthusiastic seagull I've ever seen in my life.
If you think that wasn't a fucking salute, you need to get your fucking mouth off his balls. Because he literally even did the first part of it, which is when you tap your chest first.
Yeah, exactly. And then,
like, straight the fuck up. I've seen people blame this shit on like, oh, Elon's autistic. So am I, fuckface. But I don't do like Nazi salutes because I'm not a fucking Nazi. The mental gymnastics, man. You see, I'm already getting too lost in the sauce. This is what I'm saying. Like, the only way to win this game is to not fucking play it.
Haven't I always preached that ever since the beginning, though?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just talking to the audience. You figured that shit out forever ago.
We've even been saying it, though, haven't we? Like, you know,
yeah, but I started saying it because of you. Because you were saying it to me first. And then I'm even just saying it like you said.
Like, as far as, like, the audience goes, because it's like, you know, even before all of this, like, I even said before, like, shit's gonna get worse before it gets better.
Yeah.
And this is the worst.
The DEI initiatives are already happening, and I can personally confirm that without being able to say too much, that those are already happening already, where, like, they're getting rid of all of those initiatives and whatnot. He pardoned all the rioters, which is insane.
One of them actually denied his pardon.
I saw that one. I read about that woman.
Can I actually, like, I don't know the context of it, but it's just like, regardless,
she just regretted it. She just, like, she realized what they did was fucking stupid.
Like, the amount of character that kind of had, like, you know, first of all, you're still a bitch for, like, even, like, starting that, like, being a part of it to begin with. Just saying.
Yeah, but she's not as bad as all the alpha chuds who, like, are so tough to, like, take over the country but can't handle prison.
But fair that. But I'm like, what I'm getting at though is that, like, there is a big part of character that comes into play there. Because she said that for the record, that I regret what I did and I don't want a pardon for what I did. That's a big show of character. And at the very least, what a redemption arc for you, lady. Like, you know, like, actually. Like, I mean that unironically. Can you imagine, like, if someone asks Trump, like, years later after his 2 terms are up, and, like, he's just been retired for years. Like, I mean, he's probably going to be fucking dead, like, probably after this presidency. But
man, we said the same thing about Biden, man.
No, it's true, yeah, but Biden held on too, which I'm like, damn, these guys, like, just don't die.
Yep.
Or what I was getting at is, like, you know, they, like, someone asks him, is like, you know, did you know what you were doing? He's like, I'm a dog chasing cars. I wouldn't know what to do with one if I caught it. You see, I just do things. It's like, can you imagine this revealing to his autobiographer? That, like, dude, all those 8 years, I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I just did shit. I just signed stuff, and I just didn't have a care in the world for the consequences.
Yeah.
And then, like, you probably argue, and if somehow this country didn't just split into 3, like, afterwards, you probably just kind of go like, did we die? No. We're still around. We're still one United States. It's fine. I didn't do anything. Like, he probably just put his hands up on the whole thing. It's like, look, we're still alive, right? Nobody died.
Dude, he pardoned all the rioters, and literally in the debate with Kamala, he straight up said he had nothing to do with them raiding the Capitol. And it's like the thing you respect about Donald Trump the least is his resolve, is that he would throw you off the fucking lifeboat, man.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like, he can't even stand by the shit he says because he knows it's all a grift. So I guess we could end on this here. I'll end on, like, some optimism for you all. I think his presidency, I think this term is going to be worse than the first one. Unless we get especially if we get, like, another pandemic or some shit, knock on wood, that's the only thing that could really solidify that. But I think, to leave you with a little bit of a note of optimism, he didn't fucking get away with everything he did in his first presidency. There are people and groups and organizations that are going to be dedicated to fighting this guy tooth and nail. as much as they can for the next couple of years. There are already so many lawsuits happening about his fucking meme coin that he did.
Oh yeah.
Which, yeah, of course, he could just do that too, of course, you know, like he could just like take foreign money just like that to rake his pockets for billions 2 days before he enters the office. Like, Jesus fucking Christ. To leave you with a note of optimism here, you know. Take what is going on with them turning social media into the blatant propaganda tool that we knew it already was, but now blatantly is, as actually a sign of hope. Because you're all aware of it. If you weren't aware of it, you wouldn't be, you know, saying this shit. Again, the TikTok thing already, TikTok is already going to be a propaganda tool, and I know a lot of people already aren't going back to it because for this reason, but the number one thing that, trending things on TikTok that happened were, the ban was bullshit. It was propaganda, not thank you, Trump. This is great, Trump. Did they actually expect, like, hashtag thank you, Trump to, like, just roll through and everything? It didn't. It, like, no one fell for it. It was actually beautiful. And I think a lot more people are being aware of this. And among our more listened to episodes, which the last week's and the Zuckerberg one, thank you all for gassing that one up really high. I'm going to say the same thing I said in that episode. I'm leaving up with a note of optimism because, you know, yeah, the dead internet theory is real, and the things that aren't dead are going to be blatant propaganda now. But maybe this is actually going to encourage people to spend more time outside. Maybe this will actually be what gets people to cut the cord because more and more people are realizing this is fucking stupid. You know, we're just going to sit down and, like, give up our scrolling, just not give up our scrolling just because we hate what we see. I think some people will be like that, and some people doom scroll and whatnot, but more and more people I know are becoming aware of these things. And, again, I said it before in this episode, but I think the only way to win this game, really, against our oligarchs is to not play the game. Just don't. Just get off of it for a while, turn it off, or go to some privately owned social media that is actually starting to become crowdfunded by the people. I'm gonna recommend Blue Sky. I'm gonna probably head over there pretty soon as well because it's actually, you know, it doesn't have like these overseers. It's just a private company that, you know, is blowing up in the wake of Twitter shitting itself. A lot of users are switching over. Actually, it's among the fastest a social media platform has grown since TikTok, I believe. So, if you really need your fix, you can go over there, and it'll be a little bit more peaceful, a little bit less political, hopefully. Who knows what will actually happen, but my point is that you gotta remember the off switch is there. Things are gonna suck for a while, I'm not gonna hold you. Like, Donald Trump is gonna make a lot of bad decisions, but, you know, it happens with every presidential term. They sign a shit ton of executive orders, the next one comes in, undoes all that stuff. We don't know what the next 4 years are gonna be like. All we know is that we can live for today. And if you're a left-leaning person and you want this shit to get reversed, look at what happened with the fucking blue wave that happened in 2022, or not 2022, in 2018. Like how we voted in all those people because of all the heinous shit Trump was doing. Now, who knows if that's going to be the same again, of how much his new propaganda tools are going to work. Facebook was already a platform for the boomers. All the smart people on Twitter know that, like, you know, all of Elon's stuff is bullshit. Who knows? It's going to be interesting to see if that grand collection triumph of the human spirit, I should say, is going to be able to triumph over these clear attempts to undermine the actual voices of the American people. Who knows if, you know, like, we're going to get flagged eventually because we've said bad things about Trump. Who knows? We're a little bit more centrist here, at the very least Dennis is, I could say, but, not to just only speak for him, we're not going to let anybody else speak for us either. It's the same advice that I'll give to incels who, like, complain, I can't get a girlfriend, what's going on, is it feminism's fault? No, just stop investing, stop, like, letting all this podcast bro bullshit enter your mind. Just leave your fucking house. A woman can't fall into your lap while you're sitting in your fucking room jacking off to porn, or just like explaining to you why you can't get a girlfriend. You really think you're going to be able to get a girlfriend if all you do is sit and cry about why you can't get one? Come on. Well, it's the same thing about, you know, being able to enact any change. If you're just sitting there doom scrolling and being like, yep, we're fucked, continue scrolling. Like, just leave your house, turn it off, don't put the weight of the world on your shoulders. We got through one presidency of Trump's. Some of you probably think it's just a doomer that we got through one of Biden's. We'll get through the next one. So that's where I'm ending off here. I had something else I wanted to say, but it's completely fucking blacking on my mind, and I'm going to remember it while I'm editing this. It's going to piss me off. Whatever.
It always happens. Like, yeah, you think of it after the fact, or like when you're taking a shower and you're just like lathering yourself up, and you're just kind of like, and you just audibly say "fuck."
It like ruins the podcast for me while we're recording. Sometimes if we're talking about something like this and there's something I wanted to say but it just slips out. It's happened to me multiple times, and it's too late
sucks.
Now. Yeah, we're gonna go. Don't spend too much time on the apps. It's not good for your mental health. If you want to, listen to some funny things, we talk about really stupid shit a lot and shit that doesn't matter that we like to meme and make jokes about. And if that's your thing, and if that helps ease your mental health in these trying times of ours, consider subscribing to the Double D Experience. It's available wherever you get your podcasts, on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all these different listening platforms. Leave us a 5-star review on Spotify. It helps us out a lot. And if you're on YouTube, which I know most of you are, leave a like, a comment, and a subscription. Let us know what you think about the TikTok ban, and what you think, about Donald Trump's latest actions, or what his presidency is going to be like, I suppose. Again, not a news and politics thing. We're not going to contribute to, your mental deterioration by talking about him every week, because there's going to be a million headlines about him every day again, just like there have been for the last 10 years. I'm sick of, looking at the ugly guy who did it, Dennis. All right? We're done. We love y'all. We'll see you soon. Dennis, you get the last word.
Donald Trump is the Joe Gage of America.
Good last word.
I'm just going to leave it at that.